One of the great things to come out of the Acolyte is Chimere. No doubt in my mind that his fighting technique and his style is pretty much as athletic as I've seen in Star Wars. Not the best, I'm not going that far, but it is one of the best, you have to admit. With his fast reflexes and at times great moves, Manny Jacinto, the actor, clearly put himself on the line for this role. He looks shredded, he looks ripped, and he has trained with a saber so much so that he goes up against multiple Jedi Knights and Jedi Master. So it got me to thinking. I made a video about this previously, and watching Chimere fight this ferociously really had me nostalgic for not only the prequels fight, that choreography with Nick Gillard, but the Clone Wars animated series too, where a lot of epic duels happened. But you know who never fought one another? These two guys. And I was really excited to see him back for Ahsoka. In my mind, he will forever be the real Anakin, and there's nobody else. Even 20 years down the line, when somebody wants to recast Anakin and do the prequels all over again, maybe when I'm an old man trying to tell my grandson about how great Hayden Christensen was, I don't think anybody can recast a new guy playing Anakin. And what bums me out even more is that we never got a duel between Hayden Christensen and Ray Park. Hayden plays Anakin, of course, and you can see how great he is at dueling, how skillful he is. He just, for the Ahsoka series, they called him, he picked up the saber, and he went right back to work. It's like muscle memory. The guy hasn't lost a step. It was so beautiful to see him duel Ahsoka, and similar to Obi-Wan. In the Obi-Wan series, he did the same thing. He came back and didn't miss a beat. But remember, Ray Park was a stunt guy. He was actually a real swordsman that he played and gave life to Maul in episode 1. He had acrobatics, he had lightsaber fighting down to a T. Imagine Hayden Christensen going blow for blow against Ray Park. Imagine what that duel would actually look like. That would be a thing of beauty. That would be the most epic lightsaber duel that you have ever seen in Star Wars history, and I'm afraid we might never get that in live action. To start with, the Clone Wars never featured a Darth Maul Anakin lightsaber duel. Maul did come back in the Clone Wars, but he only fought Obi-Wan. The only hint we have in canon that Anakin fought Maul at one point in time is actually not Anakin, but in Star Wars Rebels, Maul hints to Ezra that a powerful being is approaching, and later we see that that is Darth Vader. So he kind of hints that he might have crossed paths with Darth Vader at some point in time, but this is not Hayden Christensen. This is not peak Anakin as we see in episode 5. I mean, in the comics, we have a quasi-story of a doppelganger of Darth Maul fighting against Darth Vader, and we also have a crazy story in the comics of Luke Skywalker, years after Return of the Jedi, finds a Darth Maul ghost and actually fights him, so it's pretty cool. But we can circle around all we want. I don't think we will ever get a Darth Maul versus Anakin, peak Darth Maul versus Anakin in their prime duel, and I really hate this. I hate the fact that these guys never got together. Hayden versus Ray, dueling it out and seeing who could get the best of who, and seeing who would fight best. I think both of these guys have that special sauce, you know, and hopes might not die out yet in my mind. I mean, in episode 5, we saw a lot more than we bargained for. We saw Anakin in his Clone Wars armor in live action, so never say never. Dave Filoni knows how to bring the best out of these actors and out of these stories. Down the line, it might feature a scene where Darth Maul fights Anakin during the Clone Wars, and we've not seen this in the animated version. Perhaps the story got cut. Something that happened that we were never made aware, that Anakin actually fought Maul at some point in time during the Clone Wars. This might be the best solution to what I think not only me, but a lot of fans, a lot of Star Wars fans have a problem with, that Anakin and Maul never fought against one another. And as I said, Hayden Christensen versus Ray Park, this is what I truly want. Hayden Christensen brings his athleticism to Anakin, as we saw against Ahsoka, and Ray Park, who could forget about his portrayal of Darth Maul, not only in Phantom Menace, but he actually did mocap for Clone Wars Season 7 that he fought Ahsoka on during the Siege of Mandalore. That is just peak Star Wars content. I would love to see it at some point in time. Actually, there is this story in the comics where Anakin versus Darth Maul comes very close to being a reality. Remember, remember, this is the closest we have come to seeing these two fight. 3 years after the Battle of Naboo, Anakin Skywalker was becoming more powerful with each passing day, showing promise and confidence in his skills. During that time, he was participating in a training session within the Jedi Temple, surrounded by many other younglings. In fact, he had programmed a droid to mimic the moves and skills of Darth Maul, the secret Sith who killed his first master, Qui-Gon Jinn. Both Windu and Obi-Wan were watching these young Jedi prospects showcase their abilities, and at just the right time, Chancellor Palpatine shows up as well, showing interest in Skywalker's abilities to the dismay of Mace Windu, of course. He even referred to his improvement as impressive. With each slash, Anakin was becoming more and more aggressive, and in a final show of sheer skill, the young Padawan slashes the droid in half and completely demolishes it. Now, whether it was jealousy or perhaps the truth, the younglings behind him were slightly unimpressed. While they acknowledged his lightsaber skills, they still believed he wouldn't become a good Jedi. One commented that after all, he would always be a slave to his emotions. Anakin, however, heard only one thing that triggered him the most, and that was he is just a slave. He had had enough. With only a flick of his wrist, he used the Force to pull both of their lightsabers, suspended on air, and ignited them by easily using the Force. The younglings were shocked and terrified. To make matters worse, Anakin taunted them about their comments. Witnessing what just happened, Obi-Wan immediately intervened, but by that point Anakin had just come to his senses. He defused the lightsabers and gave them back to the younglings with an apology to offer as well. It was a sudden burst of emotion. However, the Padawans had just witnessed his wrath. They were not about to discuss it further, they just said to forget it. Palpatine, of course, having seen what transpired, used this opportunity as an in to spend more time with the boy, instructed Windu to send the boy over to him more frequently. After all, he was once Anakin's age, he commented, and he felt a special connection with Anakin, even reminding Windu that the Jedi fall under the Senate's jurisdiction. He was the Senate. Shortly thereafter, when he went on a brief errand with Palpatine, the boy became disillusioned and, in fact, wanted to completely leave the Jedi Order and pursue adventure, choose his own path, as he explained to Obi-Wan. But during that turbulent time, both Anakin and Obi-Wan were sent on a mission to the planet of Carnelian 4 in response to a call for Jedi assistance. The trip would not be a smooth one. Their ship would crash upon entry, and while there, they discovered the ruins of an advanced civilization that used to rule the planet. Now it was swarmed by primitive species and survivors. While on the surface, Obi-Wan and Anakin immediately find themselves in a heat of battle between Prawn and Grecker, and while the Jedi defuse the situation, they are still left stranded and agree to work together in order to survive. While trying to recover an airship, Grecker asks Obi-Wan if the young boy is his son, to which Obi-Wan responds with a firm no, that he is his Padawan, which, as he describes, is something between a student and an apprentice. Grecker is mostly shocked that Anakin is a mere student. He could handle himself and others quite easily, even noting that Skywalker was a tough kid. Grecker continues to question Obi-Wan about Anakin and how he came to be the boy's master, to which Obi-Wan responds with kind of a meek answer, saying that his dying master just asked him to train Anakin and he had no other choice. He just could not refuse a dying wish. Kenobi goes on to say that Anakin is very important. With his potential and his abilities, he could very well affect the balance between good and evil in the universe. In the end, he would need guidance, and that he swore to provide that to him. Visibly, Obi-Wan was uncomfortable. Grecker even tells him that he doesn't seem too happy about this ordeal. Basically, that the Jedi was simply stuck with a tough-minded student. However, Obi-Wan, who always showed humility, put the blame on himself, telling Grecker that it is normal for a kid of his age to behave in such a way, and any blame for any failure would solely rest upon him. While Grecker still notices that Anakin idolizes Obi-Wan, the veteran Jedi still acknowledges that Anakin has his issues with serving the Jedi Order. Furthermore, Kenobi believes that the young Padawan finds patience to be quite difficult,
Skywalker hates to wait on anything. He just can't concede that he would leave the Order, stating that if he indeed does leave, things will become a bit more complicated.
Of course, this is not the first time and the only time that we see Anakin and Obi-Wan clash from time to time, but it is interesting with these canon comics to see how close Anakin came to calling it quits, not just once, but multiple times, especially once he grew up and started his relationship with Padme Amidala.